Hi, I'm Shelly from FaithX, helping you connect your faith and your business with confidence. Today, I want to tell you about Moses and Red Sea and parting of the Red Sea, and how that really explains or gives an example of step by faith. But before I do, I want to remind you that the Sword and Savvy interview series is coming at the end of this month. It's June 30th. And all episodes of season 1 will release at the same time. So be sure to subscribe for more updates on that, and make sure you don't miss that. That's going to be really exciting. There are interviews with established Christian entrepreneurs talking about how their faith impacts their business and how their business impacts their faith. So back into the main talk for today. It's Exodus, I think it's 14. Exodus 14. And it's talking about where Moses is participating in a miracle that God does, parting of the Red Sea. And we've been talking about this in church, the life of Moses, and it just really stood out to me, this idea of step by faith. When the Israelites were standing at the edge of the Red Sea before the miracle happened, here's the context. They had just seen all the plagues of Israel, all the plagues of in Egypt. They got released from Egypt. They go into the desert. God has told them now to double back, going back toward Egypt, so that it looks like they were lost and wandering around in the desert. Now, when they get to this point where they're doubling back, they're following pretty good until they see the Egyptians coming with their big army, and here they are, a bunch of escaped slaves, and now they just start grumbling against God, saying, why did you do this? We could have just died in Egypt. Why did you take us to the desert? Just to die anyway. And they start saying, well, our lives are pretty good, actually. Yeah, we were miserable, but it was better than this, right? They couldn't see God's plan anymore. They didn't trust him to do what they thought he was going to do in the way that they thought he was going to provide for them. So when you get to this point, chapter 14, Egyptians are on one side with all of their army. Then there's a big cloud, which is God's presence, keeping one side in the dark and one side in the light, so that they can't go into each other, right? So that the Egyptians can't attack. The Israelites can't return back to where they came from. They can't say, oh, just kidding. We want to still stay, in the same situation we were. And then there's the Red Sea on the other side. So it seems like there's nowhere to go. The Israelites could have just sat down there and waited until the cloud went away and said, okay, well, I guess I'm going back to Egypt. Or their alternative, right, because they thought they were going to die in the desert, they could have just sat there until they died, right? But they didn't. God said, okay, here is your way out. It doesn't look like what you were expecting, but here's your way out. I'm going to split the Red Sea. And it says he split it so that they walked through on dry ground. So this wasn't like a halfway split, walk through the puddles or a little bit of water. It was dry ground. So that means, even underneath the very surface layer of dirt, the water was split all the way up. There were walls of water, it says, and the Israelites walked through. And it doesn't really say a lot about that, but I was imagining what it would be like, and that would be incredibly scary, for me anyway. I would have to trust that God, every time I went further away from that shore, further from what I knew, I would be walking away from that towards something that I didn't know, something that I was having to trust that God wouldn't just collapse these walls of water again, just as, in the reverse of the way that he put them up there, right? You just saw these miracles, but you see that he's powerful, and what if he just decides he's going to change his mind? The Egyptians changed their mind. My pastor said that previous to this experience, they really only had, as far as an authority figure, they really only had Pharaoh and all of his rulers. So he changes his mind all the time. You see that throughout Exodus. He says, oh yeah, you can go. No, wait, just kidding. Oh yeah, you can go. No, wait, just kidding. And that's why he was here on the banks of the Red Sea anyway, is because they said, oh, hey, yeah, you can go. Take your God who does all these plagues. Oh wait, just kidding. We want you back, right? So then he puts out his army. And because of that, they are expecting this God who changes his mind, is cruel, doesn't have their best interests at heart, but only his. So imagine that, and walking through this, thinking already that God has just brought you out to the desert to die, and now you're walking through this thing, and you're like, I guess this is it, right? Every step you take is going to have to be a step of faith, knowing that at any moment things could go horribly wrong, or you're trusting that God is going to take care of you, he's going to provide. And I think in business, that happens a lot, right? Like we don't always know what's coming next. We don't always know even what our next step is, but we're trusting God for the answers as we do it, right? So like we don't, like, yeah, there's some planning involved and some strategy involved, but ultimately, like all our plans are just our plans, right? Like things can change. And I guess my thought around this is there was a lot of things that happened in my life in the last couple of weeks that made this really feel a lot more real. So what I'm thinking is I wanted to share that example of what it looks like to walk step by step, and knowing like we have the ability to look back on the Israelite story and say, oh yeah, that was totally worth it. Of course they should walk through, right? Of course they have better things ahead on the other side of that Red Sea versus waiting there for the Egyptians to catch them. But it doesn't always feel like that. So what I'd encourage you is to pray about what area in your life do you need that step-by-step faith. Pray that God would encourage you and strengthen that faith, that he would put people in your life to really kind of like boost up your desire to walk that way. Because it's not, sometimes it just feels easier to just be like, well, I sit down, I quit. But he's opening this amazing possibility in front of you, and I want you to see it for what it is and what it could be, because we have a good God, because he has our best interest at heart. And it may not look like what we think it will look like, right? He knows us so well. He's made us so well that he knows what it is that would be in our best interest more than we know what is in our best interest. So pray over that this week. Ask for him to build up that faith, to really make it so that you, even if you're afraid, that you trust God will hold back the things that seem like they're overwhelming, will make that path clear for you. That is just the next step, right? You don't have to be able to see the whole history of everything, your future, right? You don't have to see that. All you need to know is what is the one thing that I need to do next, and to be able to take that step in faith, to just keep moving forward so you get that momentum going. If you have any questions, or if you want to share a specific prayer request, of course, feel free, put that in the comments. I'm happy to pray for you and with you. And then until next week, I'm Shelly with FaithX, helping you connect your faith and your business with confidence.